In the bustling kingdom of Orinthia, where trade caravans crossed dusty plains and marketplaces roared with the cries of merchants, there lived a ruler named Queen Selene. Selene had inherited a divided land. Its nobles bickered, its people distrusted authority, and its soldiers lacked discipline. Many advisors urged her to tighten laws, punish disobedience, and rule with iron. But Selene, wise beyond her years, saw that force breeds only fear, and fear fades when shadows lift. Instead, she turned to a subtler, more enduring power, the principle of giving others a fine reputation to live up to. She understood that if you tell a man he is unworthy, he will shrink, but if you crown him with honor, he will strain every nerve to prove that you are right about him. Her first test came with the city guards. They were lazy, untrained, and often took bribes. Many nobles said dismiss them, hire stronger men, but Selene refused. Instead, she gathered the guards in the courtyard and addressed them not as failures, but as protectors. "You are not mere men with spears," she declared. "You are the shield of Orinthia, the defenders of our children, the pride of this kingdom. When travelers speak of Orinthia, they will speak of your courage. When mothers sleep, they rest easy because of your vigilance. This land depends on you." The guards, stunned, straightened their backs. For the first time, someone had called them noble. And from that day on, they began to train harder, to fight off bandits more fiercely, and to wear their uniforms with pride. Word of the queen's speech spread like fire. Farmers who once muttered about taxes heard that the queen had raised guards from disgrace to honor. Teachers began telling their pupils, "Our queen believes in you. You are the next generation of leaders." Even prisoners who had been seen only as criminals were told by Selene's ministers, "You may have stumbled, but you are men capable of redemption, and Orinthia has a place for honorable men." Slowly, the air in Orinthia changed. A people who once bowed their heads in cynicism began lifting their chins, determined to match the reputations bestowed upon them. Selene's greatest challenge, however, came from Lord Darius, a notorious noble known for cruelty and greed. He extorted peasants, hoarded grain, and treated servants like dirt. Many urged Selene to strip him of his lands. Instead, she summoned him to court before the entire council. In front of his peers, she said, "Lord Darius, none can deny your sharp mind, your mastery of trade, and your leadership in the southern provinces. The people look to you as a man of fairness and wisdom, a guardian of prosperity. Orinthia needs men like you." Darius stood stunned, for he had never been spoken of in such terms. That night he wrestled with his conscience. To act cruelly again would not just be a sin, it would shatter the very reputation the queen had publicly gifted him. Slowly, his ways softened. Whether out of pride or true transformation, he began treating his people better, all to live up to the new image painted of him. This principle was not a trick for Selene. It was a philosophy of leadership. She believed that every human heart yearned for dignity, and if given a role of honor, most would rise to fulfill it. A carpenter, when told his work would inspire generations, carved with more care. A teacher, when told she was shaping the future of the kingdom, taught with deeper passion. Even children, when told they were brave and kind, strove to prove it true. The queen understood that people often behave in the way they are labeled. Give them the label of honor, and you will call forth their best selves. To test this further, Selene launched an ambitious project, the construction of a great library that would hold the wisdom of every neighboring land. She recruited masons, scribes, and artisans, but instead of commanding them, she gave them reputations. To the scribes she said, "You are not mere copyists, you are guardians of knowledge, protectors of truth, whose ink will outlive empires." To the masons she said, "You are not stacking stones, you are raising a monument that will inspire generations long after we are dust." To the artisans she said, "Your hands will weave beauty that will speak louder than words." The project, which many feared would fail, instead blossomed with devotion. Workers toiled day and night, eager to prove worthy of the noble images Selene had painted of them. Her enemies mocked her at first. "She wins loyalty with flattery," they sneered. But they missed the subtlety. Selene's words were not hollow praise, they were carefully chosen reputations that reflected people's potential. When a man was lazy, she did not call him lazy, she called him diligent, believing he could become so. When a soldier faltered, she called him steadfast, trusting he could rise to the title. Over time, this faith transformed Orinthia. What had been a broken land became a realm of honor, because its people were constantly reminded of who they could be at their best.
One day, a poor shepherd named Milo sought audience with the queen, trembling as he approached the throne. His flock had been stolen by bandits, and he expected dismissal. Instead, Selene said, "Milo, I have heard of your devotion. Men like you feed our people, sustain our markets, and keep the rhythm of life steady. You are not just a shepherd, you are a pillar of Oronthia." Milo left the court with tears in his eyes, determined never again to see himself as just a shepherd. He became a leader among farmers, organizing them for protection and trade. His life transformed because one sentence had given him a reputation to live up to. Even in diplomacy, Selene wielded this principle with power. When neighboring rulers visited, instead of accusing them of treachery or greed, she spoke of their renowned honor, their commitment to peace, and their generosity of spirit. No ruler wanted to contradict such public praise, and many behaved more nobly simply to uphold the reputation Selene had declared for them. It was not weakness, it was strategy of the highest order, disarming enemies by binding them to their own pride and goodness. Selene's courtiers began to study her methods, applying them in their own lives. Parents stopped scolding children as lazy and instead said, "You are capable, responsible, and kind." Teachers stopped saying, "You are stupid," and instead said, "You are bright and full of potential." Merchants stopped calling apprentices clumsy and instead called them careful craftsmen. The results astonished everyone. Children worked harder, apprentices made fewer mistakes, students learned faster, and families grew closer. The simple act of giving someone a reputation to live up to unlocked wells of strength they themselves had not known existed. But Selene also warned her people of the opposite truth. To brand a person as cruel, stupid, or hopeless was to chain them to that identity. Many criminals had been made worse because society gave them no honorable name to live up to. Many servants had sunk deeper into misery because they were told they were worthless. She urged her people to understand that words were seeds. Plant the seed of dignity, and you will harvest honor. Plant the seed of disgrace, and you will harvest ruin. As the years passed, Oronthia became known across the continent as the Kingdom of Honor. Travelers marveled not just at its markets and libraries, but at its people, who seemed to carry themselves with pride, whether they were cobblers or knights. Other rulers asked Selene her secret, and she simply said, "I give my people reputations finer than gold, and they do not dare tarnish them." Her words became legend, studied in academies long after her reign. Near the end of her life, Selene reflected on her journey. She realized that true power did not come from armies, laws, or riches, but from the human desire to live up to respect. To give another person a fine reputation was to hand them a crown invisible to the eye, but heavy on the spirit, a crown they would not wish to drop. She knew that dignity was the greatest gift one could give, for it transformed not just actions, but identities. In her final address to the people, Selene stood before the grand library she had built and said, "My people, you are not merely subjects. You are stewards of wisdom, guardians of justice, and lights for the world. Oronthia will endure because you are noble." The crowd roared, tears streaming down their faces, for they had long since learned to see themselves as more than ordinary. They were living up to the very words their queen had given them. When Selene passed away, her kingdom mourned deeply, but her legacy did not fade. Oronthia remained strong not because of walls or weapons, but because its people carried within them the reputations she had planted. And so her life became proof of Dale Carnegie's timeless principle. Give the other person a fine reputation to live up to. For when you raise another with your words, you raise the world with your vision.